Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Within the Cauldron. And tonight we have a very special guest with us tonight. But first, I want to introduce my lovely co-star, um, Medium Red.
Hi, Chrissy.
Hi. You know, she's been with me for a long time, and now I feel like she's just a part of me. Like, "Please."
I was going to say the same thing.
I know.
Yeah, it's been a year or so, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
It's been real nice. Maybe we should do an anniversary show about you
Oh,
and a year
yeah.
anniversary. So, um, tonight we have this guest um, that I love her books. She has like I think 10 books out, and it's like wow, and she has I think like 5 for just Arizona, about haunted Arizona. So
Right.
definitely have to go to Arizona. Now
Yeah, definitely. I
I
think you might have a trip planned too.
yeah, really. I think my whole family is like on board with this. But
Yeah,
who do we have tonight? Would you like to introduce them?
certainly. Actually, this evening we have a special guest who's local to my part of the United States, Arizona. Debe Branning. She's an author, a paranormal investigator. She's an actress. I think she's a small medium, as she says. I think she truly does it all. She wears many hats, and she was one of the first people to encourage me to enter this fascinating field with her great advice. So, and I still regularly seek her counsel on things. So, welcome, Debe Branning.
Hello, hello. Yeah, I do have
Hello.
my hat. I wear many hats.
You do. See, that was appropriate.
Yeah, see?
I love
You
your
got
hat.
that right on there.
Well, welcome. We am glad that you came on. And you know, I just first I want to say that my son, when we moved to Colorado in 2014, he bought a book about the Grand Canyon stories. And
Mhm.
he's like, "Mom, since you're close to Arizona and the Grand Canyon and everything," he goes, "I want to come out for a visit." And we just moved in. I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Well, we ain't got the house ready yet." But and he showed me your book, and I was like, "Oh wow." He goes, "This woman has all kinds of stories. I just want to investigate. I want to see for myself." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh. Okay. Good luck." He's never been on investigation, so he thinks that he was going to go and see everything, but he went to the Grand Canyon and he was
Mhm.
mesmerized by it. He loved it. S-
Yeah. It's very magical place. It's very magical. And I remember when they asked me to write the book about the ghosts of the Grand Canyon, I thought, well, this will be easy. The Grand Canyon's been there forever. And I couldn't find hardly any stories about any ghosts or
Wow.
anything. So I thought, oh, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought. And so I, got the car and filled it up with a bunch of paranormal investigators, and off we went for about a 4-day weekend, and we hit every single trading post, every shop, every museum all along the East Rim, um the typical place where everybody goes. We went out to the west. We didn't go up to the north. And we were picking up all kinds of cool stories from like people that worked in the shops, people that did tours. And then I still needed more. So I started putting it out there online. I go, I need ghost stories. And so I had the mule runners contacting me, the river runners contacting me. So I would be on the phone just, doing all these phone calls, getting their stories to come up with enough things. Park rangers were contacting me. So that's how I put that book together. And it was, because like I said, there was nothing, just very few stories, little tidbits. And I'm going, that's not enough to fill a book. So I was very, 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 blessed to get all these stories from all of these people that work there at the Grand Canyon. And yeah, and at, it kind of took a while, took a couple years, but now folks that go to visit the Grand Canyon, they have in some of the shops now, because it took a while for them to put it out there in the shops because it, talked about ghosts and haunted places. I'm like, and I'm, and I would go, well, who do you think told me all the stories? It was all your docents and shopkeepers. So maybe you
Right.
should do that. So,
Yeah, your mule riders and your river guides. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So it was kind of fun in the end, once I started finding all these people with, telling me about their experiences. So yeah, that's where I got most of the stories from. True, ghost hunters and true people that were down there in the, in the canyon working. So
Awesome. He really enjoyed the book and also the trip too as well.
yeah.
Well,
I
and
haven't been
Debbie
to Arizona, but I'm going to come.
she is. I think. Would you say May or?
It depends. We're going to take a family vacation, so it depends on the kids. I got 4 kids, so
Right.
who knows?
Yeah, May's a good time. I always used to do it on I guess it would have been Memorial Day weekend. That's when I used to always hike it, because I've done the Havasupai Trail a few times.
That's
and
a bucket list item of mine.
Yeah.
Although I'm getting older,
with the big waterfalls and everything. So that's usually when I used to do. Now I wouldn't be able to do it, but back when I was 30 years younger, I used to do it once a year.
I would love to do that. That's a bucket list item. I'm not sure I can do it though anymore.
Not even with my cane. I couldn't even do it then.
And Debbie just released, I think, was it last year that you just released your most recent book, which was was it the Tri-State one or the Globe one?
Yeah, the Tri-City one that features Tempe, Mesa, and Chandler, and the haunted schools. They were kind of like the same time period. They kind of went out about the same time, like a month's difference, I think. But yeah, so the schools and the Tri-City are the most recent ones. Plus, they had me do a kids version of the Route 66 one. So
nice.
I had 3 that came out last year. So that's why I've been kind of like, okay, I'm going to kind of kick back for like a year and just kind of put things together and, work on it and not actually, put it out there until I have most of it done, so that way I'm not pressured. It'll be almost done and I'll say, here's what I'm working on. You like this one? And then I can finish it up fast. So
there you go. Yeah. No pressure, no stress.
That was hard doing 3. I thought, oh, that'll be easy. No. No, it wasn't as easy as I thought, but I was glad that I did it, because there were a couple. I wanted to do the one on the schools, and I really wanted to, feature Tempe and Mesa and Chandler all in one, because I always thought Tri-Cities was Scottsdale, Tempe, and Mesa. I always thought that for the longest time, and when I started doing research, it was Chandler, Tempe, and Mesa, not Scottsdale.
And see, that's what I thought too, because I was born and raised here, and so I always remember it being Scottsdale, Tempe, and Mesa. So I was the same way. When you told me that was Chandler, I was like, really? I was shocked.
I was shocked.
I don't even think Chandler was really around. I mean, it's such a young city.
Chandler was around longer than Tempe, and Mesa. I mean, it was way back there. I mean, it wasn't as big as a town as Mesa and Tempe. I think that's what it was, but because it was more farm type of area. Yeah. But yeah, that's what it's considered as. I was shocked, but I was. And that was fun too, going to those places, getting stories. That's I think the funnest part is going to the locations and talking to the people and getting some of the stories, because you hear a lot of it, but then you're like, I'm going to have to go and interview a few people. So that's what's always fun, is doing the interviews with the folks that work there, or or have a museum or something, and find out their stories. And then I started hitting on all the various paranormal teams to find out, did you ever investigate in this area? And I share their stories. I love sharing everybody's stories and kind of putting it together. And I always, kind of make a list on the back of the book of all the paranormal teams that, I got stories from, so people can contact them for, other things as well, So I think it's kind of a fun way to share, but I learn a lot about the places from other paranormal teams that did investigations, and I like putting their stories in there and giving them credit for their stories as well too.
Did you do the laundromat?
I did do the laundromat. Yeah, that's my funny story. I always put a funny story in there, and I did that one because I found so many unique little blurbs to put in as far as I'll say laundromat little themes in it, like
I love that.
The one of, for example, it's like, yeah, everything came out in the wash and this is what happened. I mean, I just, I love the story. It was a fun little adventure, and I was just able to, put all kinds of little puns in there and everything. And I do that in every book. I pick a story that I like, and I, put puns and things in there just to kind of, like when like up at the Teepee Lodge up on Route 66, when I talk about meeting Elvis up there at the teepees, and I just went on and on how everywhere we travel, we always run into Elvis or Elvis impersonator or a building that's named after Elvis. So I use that one as my funny story in my Route 66 book about meeting Elvis up there and how he was playing music out in the parking lot late at night. And I kept hearing this, the Indian drum beats and everything. And I finally opened the door to see what was out there. And there was Elvis holding up a boombox going, "Sorry, hon, just having a little fun." And I'm like, oh. He was an Elvis impersonator. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe he really was Elvis, because, he was pretty old. He wasn't like a young Elvis, and he had a car parked out there, and, had Elvis on his license plates. And the next morning when we all got up to eat breakfast, because there was probably half dozen of us on that adventure, and the car was gone. So it's like,
wow.
Who was that? Who was that masked man? But yeah, so things like that happened on some of the adventures in the books, and I always like those, just to kind of put a little humor in it, so it's not all all creepy stuff.
You got some really good book titles though. Dining with the Dead,
that's Sleeping with Ghosts. Yeah.
Yes, and then the Graveyard Shift,
mm-hmm.
and with the Ghosts.
Yep.
Really interesting. How did you come up with like Dining with the Ghosts, Sleeping with the Ghosts?
Yeah, well, because I knew I wanted a catchy thing for, because they're all about the hotels and bed and breakfasts. So obviously Sleeping with the Ghosts. I know I had one interview one time, they actually thought that I was like sleeping with ghosts. I'm like, yeah. Did you read the book? And they're like, no. And I'm like, perhaps you should have read the book before you interviewed me, because it's sleeping at hotels with ghosts. So whether you want to stay in that room or not in that room, because maybe you don't want to be in a room with a ghost. So That's a lot of people say that they call. I carry the Sleeping with Ghosts book and the Dining with the Dead in the car. So when we travel, I can pull them out and know where to stay, and I know where to go eat. And I'm like, oh, good plan. But Dining with the Dead, the restaurant. So it was quite obvious. Right. And and like I said, I sometimes I come up with these crazy little cheesy puns and stuff like that. So that's how I got those titles. And then when I started writing with Arcadia, they had more of a set thing, like Haunted Phoenix, Haunted Globe, Haunted Route 66, and it's been fun working with them too. They're putting a bunch of my books on AI. I don't know how that's going to work, but they're taking some of my books and they're creating an AI with them, and they actually going to do 3 more of them in the this year too. So yeah, so I don't know how that works.
What does that mean then?
Changing your story though?
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're just gonna, kind of use a voice with it, kind of telling the background of the book, or they're just going to kind of advertise it that way. I don't know. But they gave a nice bonus, so I said, okay. can't hurt anything.
Money
I still
talks.
get my I still get my regular royalty. So this was just kind of an added thing. So yeah, they've been,
Nice.
all the web publishers have been really good to work with, and it's. I think it's because I'm always, spot on as far as making deadlines and things like that. As long as you make your deadlines and you come up with good topics, usually publishers are really good to work with.
Well, Debbie is also an actress too, Chrissy. She's
I heard.
I am the queen of the background. I'm that person that when you go to the movie and you see, they have a scene in a restaurant and you see all the people sitting in the background eating. That's me. Or I'm walking down the street. I'm always in the background somewhere. It's fun to do. It's fun to watch them film, and I enjoy it. But I never have any speaking lines or anything like that. It's just basically in the background. That's what they call it. Yeah, it's fun though.
Still an actress to me. She gets dressed up in period pieces.
Yeah, that's what I like doing. I love doing Westerns. Westerns are my favorite, and be able to walk down the boardwalk and you think about all the other actors that have walked down that same boardwalk, and it's kind of fun. It's really kind of fun.
That's why I said she is a woman of many hats, and like I said, she's wearing a hat.
Wow.
So are excuse me, I'm fighting this little tiny little thingy majigger, like I said, from Saturday night. So what projects are you working on right now? You said that you have you got to get the 3 books out of the way. So
right. I'm working on one on the Harvey girls, from back in the days of Harvey houses and that. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. So I have to do a lot of traveling again to get to some of these locations and do interviews again. So and then plus doing the research. So I'm doing all the research now, making my maps up and where I want to go and where I want to stop and what places I want to see that are still there. Because, a lot of the places are gone. And so that's what I'm doing. But just doing all that. All the footwork as far as getting started on it. So eventually,
you're so good about the research too. You're such a great researcher, but that goes back to your days of when you were with Ghost Hunters, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. With Ghost Adventures, I worked, did a lot of the research for them as far as some of their episodes and that, because I made friends with a producer out in LA, and so he would find a place in Arizona, and he had me be sending him all the paperwork on that, so that he could write up everything, and then basically I would go and either watch them film, or a couple of times I got to be in the doing the history blurbs.
Nice.
I wasn't ghost hunting, just sitting there, just telling them, the history of it. So I've done that a few times too. But I'm up a lot late at night on the computer reading old newspapers. I read a lot of old newspapers, and then I'm looking up, documents and death certificates, and pretty soon I'm doing their whole family family tree. And I'm like, then I have to go, okay, I'm going down the rabbit hole. I really, really don't need to know this much about this family. It's not even, but I get fascinated by, learning about the person itself, whether they were the newspapers or that they had siblings, and you find out something interesting about this sibling, and then I'm like, okay, it's too much. You don't even need to know this. But yeah, that's what I do. I do a lot of research, and I worked as a reporter for Examiner.com. They were out for about, I want to say 10 years I wrote for them. And that was really a lot of fun too, because I had my own columns, and basically it was on online kind of news thing. And basically I would be able to go, I could travel anywhere. And then I would go like, I can do a story about you if I can have a free ghost tour. And I was getting free tours and, spending the night here and there. So, cause I was doing write-ups on their location. So that was one of the funnest gigs I ever had. Cause I got to meet so many people and go to so many places. And that's how I met a lot of people out there in the paranormal world, because I was, doing stories on their events and stuff too. So that was really fun. And then they decided one day that they didn't want to do paranormal anymore. They just wanted to do like sports and music, which is, good too, but they kind of like pushed the paranormal end of it aside. And so I was like, dang, I don't get to do this anymore. It was fun.
Right.
Going to all these locations and, getting free tours and you can stay at our place. And yeah, so that's how I met a lot of people though in the paranormal field when I worked for Examiner for 9, I think it was 9 to 10 years. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, I know like you were talking about like Amy Bruni and Chris Williams, they too, I mean, I've had conversations with both of them and they both love the research aspect of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And as the flip side to it, I can't stand it. I have no desire to do it. I get in front of this computer and go, all right, what do I got to do? Where do I
know? I know, and like sometimes it gets like that too, but for the most part, I'm up late, so it's like I could sit there, I can be watching TV and pull the computer over and just start, digging things up. And pretty soon, I think it's like 3:00 in the morning. I think I better go to bed. I better get some rest. But I find it really fascinating. Once you, like I said, you find that little notch, and you're like, okay, I got to keep going. Learn more. And so it's, that part's been really fun. So,
what age were you when you first found out about your abilities?
I think I want to say probably about 17, 18. Because it was when my grandmother passed away. And I started hearing her voice all the time, because she was from Czechoslovakia. So she had a really thick European accent. And I recognized, okay, I know who this is, And she was for a long time, she was kind of my spirit guide. She kind of got me into the direction of everything. And I think it was when I moved down here, because I, being in Nebraska all those years, and then I moved down here probably in 78 or 79. So I've been down here a long time, but it was kind of then, and I lived in this little apartment in Tempe, and all of a sudden I started having this, I could see this person walking around in the apartment. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure it out who this is, what is going on. And it turned out, I think it was someone when they were doing the freeways and everything on Price Road in that area. And they were digging up a lot of artifacts and everything. And I'm thinking, this is someone from there, because that's not very far. I was like on McClintock, so I wasn't like a mile away. And it's just really interesting to have this person. And sometimes if he didn't like folks that I was dating at that time, I know one time I had a mirror fall off the wall. It had been hanging there for, I don't know, probably 6 years, 7 years. And this person's over, and this mirror comes flying off the wall. And then sometimes, the kitchen cabinets would start banging and everything. And I didn't have very many, nobody dated me very long, because they would like, okay, this girl's just too wacky. We're not going to hang out here. But that's kind of when all that was there, started happening. And then I thought, well, maybe I should check into this a little deeper. And so it was always there, but I never really paid attention to about that time when I was in my early 20s, I would say. And then it was kind of like, all right. So I would take classes here and there and just, play with it here and there. And then other times I would turn it completely off, because if I wanted someone to call me, I could sit there and go, okay, such and such, call me in about half hour, and the phone would ring and it'd be that person. And then I would think, okay, I'm getting too good at this. And so then I would just kind of stop for a while, and then I go, okay, I'm ready to go. I'd take some more, have some more people coaching me, and then I would be able to do it again. But sometimes, I can, my gift is weather. I can manipulate the weather.
Oh,
and
wow.
I can make, if I would have went to Apache Junction this last week, I would have stopped the wind.
Oh, God, why didn't you go and do that for me?
Too cold.
It was freezing.
I know. That's what I can do. Like a lot of times when we're doing like tours, or I'm working down at the cemetery and we're doing preservation work and it looks like it's going to rain, I can sit there and I can move the weather. And, and I've done that more than 100 million times. I remember one time I was up in Sedona with a couple friends, and we could see the weather coming in bad, and so all three of us move the weather. But that's my gift. I have no other powers, but I can move weather.
I love it. You definitely should have been there. It would have been create a little sunshine for warmth, because even inside the building, as you know, those buildings out there, I don't know if they have central heat or not, but it was pretty cold in there.
Mm-hmm.
Patty and Gretchen and I were kind of snuggled up together, trying to get warm.
I know. But yeah, that's something I learned that I could do. So that's kind of like when I tell people, like, oh, I can't do a lot of things, but I can move the weather and I can make people call me when I want them to call me.
That's awesome.
I love it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yes. What is your favorite place that you've been to that was haunted that you would like to go back, or just like to brag about? Or?
Well, I do have a second home in Bisbee, Arizona, and that house is very haunted there too. It has a little girl in the house that I have seen, and a couple other people that have stayed there have seen her. And there is also a gentleman that I believe he's probably an old miner, not an old miner, but a miner from back in the day. And a lot of times when we're down there about 3:00 in the morning, you can start hearing like footsteps in the house, because like he's getting ready for work. So I've heard that a lot. Other people have seen him in the house too. And my daughter's boyfriend for the longest time thought we were just making this all up, because they go down to the house too and stay. And he thought, you guys are just making all this up. This place isn't haunted. And then one day, as my daughter was packing up the kitchen because they were getting ready to go home, and he walked out, and he just had this blank look on his face. And he goes, I just saw a man walk out of that one room and into the dining room, and then he disappeared. And so my daughter goes like, I told you this place is crazy haunted. There's stuff going on in here all the time, things moving around. And I saw a cat in my house one time. There was a bunch of us girls down there. We were down there for, I think it was somebody's birthday. So there was like 8 of us stayed in my little 3-bedroom little bungalow down there. And everybody was camped out on the floors and in the bedrooms. We were all over the place. And we were all standing around the living room talking. And all of a sudden there was like 3 of us saw this cat, little tabby cat, kind of walk through the living room. And we're all like, I just saw a cat. And another girl says, I saw it from behind. And yeah, so the place is quite haunted. Of course, I live across the street down there from a cemetery, so the Bisbee Cemetery is right across the street. So I think there's a lot of people just kind of walking through, the area. I think that's a lot. Aside, the family that I see there lived in the house in the 30s and 40s, so it's probably them. It's probably them. But it's an interesting place to be down in Bisbee. I've seen a lot of crazy things down there through the years. I just remember one time I was down there for Halloween. This is back in I want to say the 80s. And I decided that I was going to go back to the house where we were staying. And so I was walking through Old Bisbee, up the hill, up Tombstone Canyon. And I saw, it was like 3 kids, and they were dressed like in old-fashioned clothing, and they actually had jack-o'-lanterns on their heads, like that what they would do back then. They would use real jack-o'-lanterns.
Right.
And I saw them, and I'm like, okay. And I looked again, and they were gone. And so that was kind of one of the weirdest things, the first time I seen of ghosts that I saw down there, and it was on Halloween. So yeah, it's a very interesting place. Other
I love
places,
Disney.
yeah, it's a fun place. It's a fun place. I mean, I have enjoyed. I just finally got to Gettysburg this past summer, and because I was at since I do grave marker preservations, where I fix grave markers and everything with a bunch of folks.
Yeah.
We have every summer what they call cemetery camp. And this last year they were up in Gettysburg. So I went to camp. I don't go every year, but I made it a point to go this past year because I wanted to go to Gettysburg. And so that was really neat, going to the cemeteries there, taking the tours through there, visiting the battlefields and everything. So that was worth it. That was worth it.
Yeah,
That's
it was. I've been there before. We was there
Mhm.
probably 2013, I think. Yeah, it was.
Mhm.
It's very emotional
Yeah.
impact. So I can pick up. It was really bad for me. I was like emotional wreck. I was like, I had to get out of there. It
Yeah.
was really bad.
Yeah. As we were driving through, I mean, I could hear people moaning out there. I could hear people, shouting in the background. I could hear people cry. It was very, very intense, very intense.
That's a bucket list item. That one definitely, I want to go there too, for sure.
That was my number one thing. And so I finally got that. So now I have to find a new one.
Yeah, it's really cool, Chrissy, that what she does with the preservation of headstones and things like that for historical markers. It's quite in depth, and I mean, Debbie can tell more about it, but she's told me a little bit about it, which has been. It's great that there's people out there that do that.
Yeah, basically we're fixing all those little cracks and crevices, straightening up the ones that had fallen down, putting them back together, making, repairs. And, I do a lot of like digging up the little ones, on the ground and that. And then the past year I did a lot of the photography as they were fixing, because we have a conservator from New York that comes out. He's not coming this year, but he comes out by every couple of years, and he does all the heavy, big stuff and has been teaching us how to do a lot of the repairs. And so basically I have, a pad, and I'm writing down what they did and that, and taking the pictures, and kind of just walking around, because usually we're working on about 8 stones at each time we're out there. So I kind of like write down all the progress and stuff like that. That's what I've been doing lately. But yeah, we have I don't know if we're good. Usually we do it in February, but I don't know if we have a big plan for preservation this year or not. It's going to be smaller things, because since he's not coming out, but we know how to do most everything now. It's just he always comes out and shows us the latest new fixes and that type of deal. So
yeah. Latest and greatest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she does a lot with Pioneer Cemetery too, where
right, yeah,
a lot of events that she puts on there for the cemetery.
Yeah. In fact, a couple weeks from now, we're doing on the 24th, I believe it is. We're making Valentines, the old-fashioned Valentines. So that's always kind of like an easy peasy. It's an open house day out there, so people can wander around the cemetery. And then for like $3 you can make one Valentine, or $5 you can make 2 Valentines. We have all the supplies there, all the glue, the scissors, the paper, the cardstock, and just all kinds of things just to make old-fashioned homemade Valentines like you did in kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that.
It's always a fun one, because it's not too intense. But we've do things like painting Day of the Dead dolls. What else we do? They were doing pottery for a while, and May we make Mother's Day jewelry, like brooches and things like that. So we're always trying to think of something new, to get people down there to make something and learn something. And we always kind of teach them about the cemetery and different people that are buried out there.
Oh, that's awesome. That I Yeah, I always take my kids to the cemetery.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we just go. When my kids were young, we just went out and took a broom, one of those older whisk brooms, and
Hmm.
some water and cloths, and wipe
Right.
off and stuff,
Wipe them off.
just to
Yeah.
teach my kids, respect for the dead and everything.
Right.
Some
Right.
of them don't have nobody to come around, or everybody's
This is
already
true.
dead.
This is true.
So
Every once in a while, the ladies from the DAR, the Daughters of American Reservation, they come out and they will clean a bunch of the stones, and we kind of have to just kind of supervise them, making sure that they're doing it correctly and everything like that. And we have a few ghosts in the cemetery there too. Not a lot, but there has been a few spirits that have popped out here and there, because it's like a little town. You have your sheriff, you have your school teachers, you
Mhm.
have doctors, you have the whole thing. And I always think, I wonder at nighttime if they're all kind of wandering around like a little village and talking to each other, because it's from back in the from the 1870s to like the 1914, 1915, that era. So you just wonder, did they all communicate with each other? And I know one time, and there's all kinds of, the cool part about that cemetery, that it's built over an old Hohokam cemetery. So it's kind of a
Oh,
cemetery over a cemetery. So it's really
wow.
kind of intense. And every once in a while you see pieces of pottery laying around, and then we always tell everybody, don't pick it up, just
Right.
bury it back underground. And I have one story that one time that I found this really cool piece, so I took it into the house just to show everybody, because with their Smurthwaite house is there, which is kind of our offices and everything. So I took it inside, just to show everybody this really cool piece. And so then I went back outside, because what I was doing is just kind of wandering around picking up garbage, because sometimes, when the wind blows in papers and things like that. And I went back to where I had picked up that piece, and something pushed me, and I'm like tipping over into this plot, with the cast iron fencing going there. And I'm like, on the whole time as I'm kind of tipping down, I'm like thinking, I'm going to get stabbed in the leg. The TV crew's going to come out, because here's the cemetery lady impaled on this, cemetery post. And luckily I fell right between where there was a broken piece out. So I didn't land on a point.
Man.
I landed in between. So immediately I went back into the Smurthwaite house, and I said, give me that piece of pottery. I'm going to go back and bury it, because whoever, that belonged to, they didn't want even you guys looking at it. So that's what I did. Took it back out, dug a hole, put it back in the ground again. That's what we always do when we find them out there. We just find a place and we dig a spot, and we, put it back into the ground. So,
Yeah.
but it's kind of interesting when those kind of things happened out there. So,
Well, that's like I'm trying to remember the gentleman that I can't remember who it was, but he wanted to kind of do like a cold case type thing at Rest Haven
mhm,
in Glendale. And I
yeah.
remember, and he didn't think about it, but it was the day after it was the day after Halloween, which is the Day of the Dead.
Hmm.
And so it was really wild, because that's the first, or All Saints Day, however they say it. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, it was interesting, because when we were walking around the cemetery, it was the hardest time for me to concentrate on trying to help with the cold case, because
Hmm.
of the fact that everybody was running around, not everybody, but a lot of the entities, the spirits, were
Hmm.
running around. And I was hearing like them talk, like one woman was talking to another man that they kind of shared a similar gravesite area, and she's
Right.
like, oh my god, my daughter's coming, I can't wait till she brings the new baby for me to see. So they really do like cohabitate and walk around. I mean, I did nothing with the cold case. I just couldn't concentrate, because there was so
Hmm.
much going on, and a lot of people were coming in, setting up picnics for the family and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
So it was
Right.
really, it was, for me, I was like, I loved it. It was such a great
Hmm.
experience to have, to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like it there, just to kind of walk around, and I always find a stone. I'm like, I didn't see this stone before, or a lot of times when we're working on one of the markers, and you're down on the ground, and you have to dig around to kind of, dig around to pull the stone back up and everything. And usually we know the story about which one we're working on. They kind of, we pull their paperwork to read about that person. And
Yes.
by the time you're done and you're putting everything back together and you start talking to that person, you're like, how your grave marker looks now. It's all clean. We straightened it. It was crooked, but you straighten it back up. And you learn a lot about the people that, history of early Phoenix who's buried there and their stories. So it's kind of cool. And so that's, one of the reasons why, well, Marshall Shore, he's the hip historian. And I decided, well, we're going to do this haunted history tour, because a lot of people just do the ghost tours. And Marshall's really into the history and I'm really into the ghost thing. So we kind of put it all together. And we only do our tour once a month, because we decided from the beginning we didn't want to be stuck with having to do a tour every single weekend, or some of these tour people do it every single night. With that, we're going to pick. And it's really funny because we never know what day we're going to do it, because he's got to look on his schedule and I got to look on my schedule, and we're like, okay, I'm free that one, you're okay, we can do it that weekend. And so we only do it once a month, but we really enjoy it. And we started off, we did a whole bus. We did the whole big bus thing, and we would drive around a lot of the area. Then COVID came. Yeah. And no one wanted to get on buses, and sit next to anybody anymore. So we thought, well, how are we going to do this? And we thought, well, let's do a walking version of this tour. And we decided we like the walking tour better than the bus, because we can actually touch the buildings. So sometimes you touch the buildings and you just feel that energy that's coming off those old buildings, from downtown. So we really enjoy that, doing that tour too. And we haven't had too many freaky things happen there. I think the worst night of having ghosts is we finally got to go into the old Baptist church there on Monroe.
Yeah.
And we got to go in there, and they let us kind of just do a mini ghost hunt in there. And we were up there where the baptismal was, and that was so full of energy up there. And we kept thinking, well, why would this baptismal be so busy? Well, Chance, one of the guys that ghost hunts with me, goes, well, Deb, he says, this was your come to Jesus moment, when you got baptized, and your whole congregation would be watching you.
Right.
And the energy from all the people, and your energy because, you're accepting, Jesus or whatever. He says, I grew up Baptist. I remember those days and how intense that was. He goes, and we figured out that's why it was so intense there. But yeah, that was a cool thing. And then they were like, okay, maybe we don't want people to know that this place is haunted. So they're like, all right, we're not going to do that no more. So
next thing you know, they don't get people wanting to go to church.
I know. They wouldn't let us go there anymore. So yeah, so it's just fun. Sometimes people, it's haunted for a while, then it's like, oh, then the new owners take over and okay, now it's not haunted anymore. But it's just kind of interesting how that all works.
Well, the Stanley Hotel does that. I mean, Amy Bruni said, I mean, that's one of her favorite places. But she had said, a little fuzzy. She had said that there was a new owner that took over it, and it was really difficult for her to get back in there. She and Adam particularly. Yeah. But then I think just recently, I don't know if if it's a different owner or if they've just warmed up to it again, because
sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, that happens in Phoenix at the San Carlos too.
Yeah.
You have one person that owns it, and they let you have tours, and you can investigate and everything. And the next owner comes around and they're like, oh no, it's not haunted here. And we're like, oh yeah, right. And the Rosin House, that's another place in downtown. They say, oh, it's not haunted. And I'm like, well, you know what? It was your docents that gave me all the ghost stories. So obviously they're seeing something there. But I respect if you don't want to say it's haunted, that's up to you. But I know it is. I've been there. I've walked around in there, especially in that doctor's office. That place is haunted. So, yeah.
So when somebody comes to Arizona, like myself, to share, where can someone find you to maybe go to an event of yours, or just get a reading from you, or just
I'm
hang
I'm
out
always
with
I'm
people?
always on Facebook. I'm old, so I'm a Facebook person. So you can find me on there a lot and just message me, and then we'll see what's going on. And I'm always looking for, events that are happening and that too. So I can take people to places or send the people to different places. A lot of times, like this last weekend, I would have loved to gone out there to, Apache Junction, and then as it got closer and closer, and it was like, oh, it's too cold, because I was going to ride out there with the gal that Patty was staying with. I was going to ride out with them, and I'm like, no, you guys go. It's going to be really, really, really cold. And I go in, and I can't walk up the hills if you guys are going to go hiking around and on the ghost hunt part of it. I says, I can't see in the dark that well, and it was cold.
It was
So I
cold.
did.
It was really cold when she went over a little bit on the seance. So I think we
Uh-huh,
didn't actually get out of there until about 8:45, which we're supposed to be
uh-huh.
done by 8:30. So when we walked out, the wind had even picked up more from
Mhm.
when we arrived. I arrived at like 6:30, and
Yeah.
it is pitch black out there. You can't
Yeah.
see.
You
You
can't
can't
see
even see your
anything.
hand. You
I know
know.
you can't see anything, and I thought I'd be falling down everywhere. But but I was sending people, like, go out there, go do this or that, and I do a Facebook page that's called Arizona Haunted Places. Haunted events, paranormal events, or whatever.
Mhm.
And so that way people can see when there's different activities happening. Like if a paranormal team is going to do a tour, or a paranormal team is going to do a ghost investigation, I post them on this one Facebook page so people can see, that sounds interesting. I might want to go do that. So I try to send people out to everybody's events, because sometimes I can't make it, but other people can go. So I like to share.
Yeah, I like that too because again, both Patty and I were trying to figure out, with Gretchen if we were going to do this or not, and we were just a little bit too late on the investigation part because that sold
Mhm.
out like that.
Yeah, it sold out really fast.
Right, it
Yeah, I
did.
think
Which I think she
I
draws
think
crowds.
the other event in Glendale didn't sell out quite as quick, but that Apache Junction thing sold out really fast.
Well, and I wonder if it was because Friday night. It's Friday night. People have to get off work. And
Mhm.
so I mean I don't know what time she
Yeah,
did her thing, but I mean I just know
I don't
Fridays
know.
were harder.
Yeah,
So. But
yeah,
yeah, it
that's
was
true.
it was it was cold for sure. You would have been. I mean, I came home and I was like, I can't even feel my nose. I can't feel my tips of my
I
fingers.
know. I know.
It was crazy. I couldn't get warm.
That's that's here every day,
I know.
every morning. It's like this.
We're
The
preaching to the
Midwest
choir.
is the new Antarctic. I mean, us, yeah, it gets really cold.
Yeah,
I'm so
exactly.
used to it.
Exactly.
So, if I go to Arizona, I'll probably melt like crazy.
I know. Well, it's supposed to be nice this weekend, boy, but last weekend it wasn't. It just didn't feel like Arizona.
No, it was cold and windy.
I went to the rock and gem show that they had in Mesa, and they were all complaining that it's just so windy and cold, and they weren't selling a lot. And I felt really bad for them, and I always like to go on Sunday, because if they're not selling a lot, then they give good prices because they want to make some sales. So I did get a couple stones, but it was cold then
Nice.
too. It was cold out there then too, but not as bad as the other night, as the evening was.
Wow.
So, Debbie, can you tell us a little bit about your team, the MVD Ghost Chasers?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. People always go, what does MVD Ghost Chasers mean? I go, well, I worked for the motor vehicle department for 25 years, and that's where I retired from. And so we started as co-workers. We thought, well, this would be kind of a fun thing for us to do. And we started going down to Douglas, Arizona, down to the Gadsden Hotel. And we would go like every payday. We'd all get in our cars, and it'd be like a 4-hour drive. We'd all be caravanning down there. We started out, maybe 5 of us going, and pretty soon there'd be 8 of us, and there'd be 10 of us. And sometimes we'd have a whole slew of cars driving down there. And that's kind of how the team got together, is going down there. And probably investigated there a bazillion times. The spirits, started knowing you when you got down there and everything. And then with that, from there, we started doing ghost towns and train depots and hotels. And that's how the team kind of got together. And so, as time passes, people move away, and so now it's kind of like there's still a few of the core people still together, but now I just kind of investigate with just about anybody. And we have, different friends, people go like, hey, we're going to go I investigate this. You want to go? And I'll go, yeah, sure. I'll go. Yeah, I've done that with you guys, and
Yeah, she has too.
it's kind of fun because you learn other techniques of it, because everybody has their way of ghost hunting. So you learn how they do it or how they do it. And so it's kind of a fun way to expand, your knowledge on different things and share your knowledge with different things. But that's basically the MVD Ghost Chasers. We're all workers at the old motor vehicle department down there. And so it's kind of funny when people ask me, what does MVD stand for? And I'm like, well, I'd like to say this stands for moving vortex detection, but it's actually the motor vehicle department. They're like, what? But we had some crazy things that happened with us. We had an encounter where we were communicating with Pancho Villa for a while. And
wow.
So that was kind of a weird ordeal when we would stay at the Gadsden, because he used to sneak into the Gadsden as well, in disguise. And yeah, so there's things like that's how kind of we got out together. And so there were no paranormal teams back when we started. We started up about 1992, 93, and I think there was only like 3 paranormal teams in the whole state. Now look how many there are. I mean, there's probably I don't know, in Mesa alone, there's probably 20, or more, because everybody, wanted to learn and how to do it. But back then there was, I know, one in Phoenix, one in Yuma, and then us in Mesa, and that was about it.
Wow.
And so, and there wasn't anything, any way to learn a lot of stuff. So we just had to kind of learn on our own. There weren't all the books there are out here now on how to become a paranormal investigator. So we did a lot of experimenting and learning. And so we were quite busy back in those days for places, So, yeah, so that's basically how we all came together and worked together. And we come back to work next weekend and tell everybody, oh, this is what happened this time. And they're like, oh,
oh, shoot, we should have gone.
Yeah.
Do you do workshops to help new ones?
Yeah. We used to do a lot of workshops. We used to do them 4 times a year, like January, April, July, and I think in October or something. And we would find locations and we'd stay, we went up to the Van Dome, and we had a really fun time that time because it was a paranormal pajama party. It was all women that time.
That's
and
awesome.
we booked the whole hotel, and we would do dowsing, or we would make potions, or we would make crystals, or we'd always do something, learning things. And then we would investigate the whole place, and sometimes we'd have a lottery, and the lucky lottery person would get the most haunted room, under the pretense that everybody could come and investigate in the room as well. And so we used to do that all the time, and we would do different places, like restaurants, or we would do the hotels. We've done the Vulture Mine back before it has all the way it is now. They've really fixed that up nice up there now.
Yeah.
And different places, and we would do a another thing we called the cemetery crawl, where it was like the Amazing Race, where you'd start in Phoenix, and we'd give you clues to historic places, and we'd go to a cemetery. You had to find a certain stone and take a picture of it, then you'd get your next clue. I mean, that was my favorite thing. That's when we met Elvis and
cool.
up in Holbrook. Yeah. But yeah, we used to do those different things where we learn about how to do different techniques. And I always liked the the various places we went to. I know we stayed at, where would we go? Was one hotel, and it was neat because we would go around, kind of like divide everybody up, and we were doing like EVP sessions in one room, or you would have to do dowsing in another room. So it was kind of neat. We always would break it up to learning different things. So yeah.
And
Wow.
Debbie does a lot of, she'll do a lot of paracons, things like that, where she did one, I think it was 2023, I think it was, where it was a Fox Theater in Tucson. And she
Oh
taught,
yeah, that's right.
and she taught the dowsing rods, how to work, what they should
Right.
be, and how
Right.
to clean them, bless them. And even to the point where she uses them sometimes, like in cemeteries, where she's trying to identify if it's a male or a
Right.
female
Yeah,
person.
you could. Yeah, I
It
do
was
a lot of
pretty
that with the
cool.
rods. Yeah, we do that with the rods a lot. And it was really kind of interesting because when I first started using dowsing rods at the cemetery, I thought, oh, you those are witching sticks. You can't be doing it here. And even our conservator from New York, the first time he saw me out there with dowsing rods, because we were trying to mark out a grave, so we knew where to move the stone to. And he was telling me, oh, I don't believe in any of that. I don't believe in any of that. Well, then the following year, he comes out and he's got dowsing rods in his back pocket. And I'm like, I thought you didn't like those dowsing rods. He goes, well, he says another person was doing dowsing at one of the cemeteries I was working in and taught me, more about it too. He goes, I use them all the time now. And I'm like, good.
That's
He
awesome.
uses them too to find, where the bodies are buried, because you can, as you're walking with your rods, it'll cross over where the bodies are. It's kind of a neat thing.
Well,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I actually took your technique and was called out for a residential investigation in Maricopa, and
Uh-huh.
they had suspected that they suspected, but it was incorrect.
Mhm.
Somebody led them astray on the information, but there
Right.
were bodies, and they said that there were like 2 or 3 bodies in the backyard. Well, I went over there and I used your dowsing
Yeah.
rod technique just as
Yeah.
you taught me, and nope, nothing,
Nobody there.
nobody
No.
there. So. But it was great.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this exactly like Debbie taught me.
I love mine. I had mine for, I don't know how many years, over 20, 30 years. And I just got a new set with a new ghost hunt set that my kids got me for my
Mhm.
birthday. So I have to take them out and
Yeah.
put them out. So, and we got a cemetery is like probably 5 blocks away that we walk
Mhm.
to about a couple times. Well, not anymore. It's too cold, but
Too
but it's
cold though.
nice now. Yeah, we do about 3 times
Yeah.
a week with my grandson. I'll push him in the carriage and we go there and walk. And he's always like he's talking to somebody. Hi, hi, hi.
I love it.
I
And
know, in
you
fact,
know,
my granddaughter, one time I had taken her to the cemetery in Phoenix with me, and she kept telling me, she goes, I was talking to the baby, and I'm like, what baby? She goes, well, there was a baby just sitting outside, on the grave, and I'm like, and I just asked her recently because now she's 14, almost 15, and I'm like, so do you remember that time when you told me you saw a baby sitting by a grave marker at the cemetery? And she goes, very, I kind of do. And I go, did you really see a baby there? And she goes, yeah, it was sitting there. I remember it was sitting there by the marker. And she says, and then it just kind of disappeared. And I'm
yep.
like, I go, okay, I just wanted to make sure because you told me that story and you were 3 and you wouldn't know anything about ghosts or anything when
Well,
you were
well,
3.
mine is 3. Well, he's 3.5. He'll be 4 in June.
Mhm.
And he's always like, we have some spirits in the house, and he's always pointing and talking or laughing or playing like imaginary friends, like
Right,
tea
right,
parties and stuff. And, I don't think nothing of it. I'm just, as long as you know, no one hurts him, he's
right.
fine. You
Right.
know, so when we go to the cemetery and he's talking to somebody or waving somebody or giggling, I'm just like, tell him I said hi. He said,
Yeah.
my grandma says hi.
Well,
Oh,
I
cute.
remember where I lived when I was growing up in Omaha, and I would look out my bedroom window to the backyard, and I would see 3 kids walking, through the backyard, kind of up towards the window. And I'd always ask my mom, who are these three kids? And she's like, you're crazy. And I'm like, no, there's three kids, and one's name is John, one's name is Mary, and his name is Ginger. And she goes like, no. And I go, they get almost to the window and then they stop. And I never have figured out who they might be, whether there was a farm, there at one time, and maybe these kids, died in a fire. That's kind of what I always thought. There must have been a fire here. So I don't know who they were. And I think that's kind of my first encounters with spirits. And I had this imaginary dog too. But I think he was real. But my parents, I know my dad was so tired of hearing about this dog that it was wintertime, and he opened the front door and he pretended like he threw this dog out the door, and I started crying until he let him back in. So I said, he's gonna freeze out there.
Yeah.
Never dismiss a kid's
Oh,
the way they say things, the way they see things. Because my grandma always has said that to me ever since I was little. To when I had my own kids, she goes, when your kid starts talking about spirits and stuff, listen to them. They know what they're talking about. So, and I have 4 kids, and many, many spirits.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and her granddaughter I just have to say, is the little mini version of Debbie. Gabby looks exactly like Gabby looks exactly like Debbie. It's so cute. Even more so as she's getting older, and you post
she is.
Holy cow, she's
now
a little mini me.
Yeah, she is. She's funny.
Has she gone on a ghost thing yet, or not until she's 18, right?
Yeah, she's kind of told me, she goes, I kind of like to go, and I'm like, pretty soon. You need to learn a little bit more. I said, so I'm not taking you out there yet.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Well, it's been awesome to have this conversation with you. I mean, I'm going to tell my son that I did a podcast with the author of the Grand Canyon stories. So I guess I'm bragging rights myself.
Yeah, there you go.
So, but he's going to say, well, why didn't you tell me? I want to go on. Do that. So,
yeah, he probably would have enjoyed to watch that one. Yeah,
probably would. But thank you so much for coming on.
And thank you for inviting me. That was fun. It was fun, you guys.
Yes, hope we can see you again soon. I know you have some haunted items that we, of course, are about haunty stuff, spookiness. So, maybe we can get together again, hopefully on Friday the 13th, if you can. I know it's your birthday. So everybody wish her a happy birthday on Friday the 13th in February.
I was born on Friday the 13th.
Oh my God.
This could be the problem.
Debbie, that's why we are so compatible, because I was born on Friday the 13th, but March 13th. So a month later. The quick little funny story, Chrissy, is she's the one that really kind of got me into this whole thing. When I met her back in, it had to have been 1989, 1990, something around that time frame, I want to say. So I've always had my little pinky toe, like, in the whole paranormal world, living vicariously through Debbie, until, I finally took the leap of faith. So that's why I defer to you on all my information. No wonder. I love it.
Oh, awesome.
Anyway.
To the audience, though, go to the website, go to the Facebook page of Debbie's, and also the Arizona Haunted Stories page. Is that it on the other Facebook page?
I'm trying to think what it is. The Arizona Paranormal Activities.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll write that down here.
Yeah. Or just message me and I'll point you over there.
Okay.
Perfect.
I think I did that wrong, but oh well.
Yeah, it's in there somewhere.
So, but I'm definitely going to join that page too, as well. And I just want to say to the audience, subscribe, like, and share our channel. And we hope that you would come back. And Debbie, I hope you come back too. It was nice,
Thank
nice
you.
to really get to know you. I enjoyed it. So, but for everybody, good night and blessings.
Thank you all. Bye bye.